She crawled out of the water, soaked, shredded, and screaming like she'd just discovered Wi-Fi doesn't reach hell. Her leg was bleeding, her $8 wig floated behind her like a surrender flag, and her dollar store sunglasses were now property of the lake. Her screams echoed through the trees as she collapsed on my private dock, drenched in a mix of pond scum and panic. The woman looked like she lost a wrestling match with Satan's bathtub pet. I stood there watching her wheeze and sob, holding her torn yoga pants together like they were going to refund her dignity. That's when she turned her swollen face toward me, pointed a trembling, blood-speckled finger, and croaked out, "You're going to court for this. I'll sue you so hard, your cows will need lawyers." I didn't blink. I just looked her dead in the eyes, tossed her a towel, and said, "Tell the judge Carl sends his love." Welcome to Peace Stories. Make sure you like and subscribe for your top-notch HOA drama. Now let's rewind the madness. Before the crocodile, before the chaos, before Carl rose like Poseidon in a bad mood, this all started with a lake. My lake. I bought the property 3 years ago, a peaceful slice of heaven with rolling grass, pine trees, and a beautiful sparkling lake I stocked myself. It was meant for fishing, peace, and the occasional beer-soaked nap. Enter Karen, president of the HOA, self-declared enforcer of rules, and a woman whose life peaked during a bake sale power struggle in 2016. She lived 3 lots down, but acted like she owned a throne built out of expired bylaws. She claimed the lake was communal because she once saw it on Google Maps while sipping boxed wine. First time she trespassed, I politely asked her to stay off. The second time, I wrote a note. The third time, she called me territorial and said I reeked of masculine insecurity. The fourth time, well, we were getting close to Carl's debut. It didn't matter how many signs I put up. Karen treated boundaries the same way she treated facts. Optional. Every other week, she'd show up in a leopard print one-piece, blasting Celine Dion from a fanny pack speaker like it was the halftime show of her ego. She'd waddle down my dock with a plastic flamingo floaty under one arm and an iced coffee under the other, waving at me like we were besties and not 2 steps away from a restraining order. "Just a quick dip," she'd shout, as if trespassing became legal if you yelled it cheerfully. I tried everything. Politely asking. Not so politely asking. I even tried reverse psychology and offered her full legal access to the HOA's murky community pool, which has a reputation for turning swimsuits green. But no, she wanted my lake. Something about it feeling like royalty and being better for her aura. One day, I caught her bringing guests. 3 sunburnt women in matching lake life shirts and enough rosé to drown a bear. They set up a picnic on my lawn like it was a resort, and I was the unpaid help. I asked them to leave. Karen told them not to listen to the man who hoards water like a dragon. I'm not exaggerating. She actually called me smog. After that, I installed cameras and posted the footage online. Title, Local HOA President Breaks and Enters into Lake, Calls Owner Water Hoarder. It got 22K views in 2 days. Her retaliation? She filed a complaint to the HOA accusing me of disrespectful landscaping and hateful water vibes. I laughed so hard I nearly fell off the tractor. But things really escalated when I introduced Carl to the lake. Well, not intentionally. See, after the heavy rains in March, a few unexpected visitors wandered onto the property. Mostly frogs, a couple turtles, and Carl, a 12-foot croc with a face that said, "I'm not here for your HOA nonsense." I spotted him sunbathing on the bank one morning, eyes half closed like he'd already had enough of suburban politics. I figured he'd move on. He didn't. He stayed. Quiet, calm, patient. And Karen? She never noticed him. Not once. Because when your head is that far up your HOA handbook, you tend to miss the apex predator chilling 3 feet away from your floaty. By the time summer hit, Karen had fully convinced herself the lake was hers. She even started calling it Lake Karen at HOA meetings. I wish I was joking. She printed it on her coffee mug. Her emails were signed from the shores of Lake Karen. I kept expecting to find a flag planted in my lawn with her face photoshopped onto Lady Liberty. She wasn't trespassing anymore. She was colonizing. That week, I noticed Carl wasn't sunbathing anymore. No, he was lurking. Real still. Real quiet. Either Karen's chlorine-scented sunblock was attracting him, or he just had enough of her off-key humming. I figured, as long as she didn't mess with him, he'd leave her be. But Karen didn't leave anything be. On a Thursday morning, I watched through binoculars as she strutted onto the dock wearing a glittery sun hat so large it needed FAA clearance. She kicked off her slides and did this little stretch like she was auditioning for a senior calendar. Then she slipped into the lake with a dramatic sigh and floated on her back, arms wide, humming Whitney Houston. Meanwhile, Carl circled like a scaly Roomba with teeth. She never saw him, not even when he glided within arm's reach. She just kept babbling to herself about lavender essential oils and HOA landscaping standards. But then, oh boy, she made the fatal mistake. She kicked, not hard, but enough to splash. It was like ringing a dinner bell in Carl's face. His head popped up, slow and deliberate, and even from 200 feet away, I could see those cold reptilian eyes say, "Finally." In one terrifying flash, Carl surged forward, water exploding around him like he was launching from a cannon. Karen screamed, a sound so shrill it made two crows fall out of a tree. Carl clamped down on her thigh like she owed him rent. She slapped the water, kicked, flailed, shrieked something about calling the police on the crocodile. It was chaos. Pond scum flying, flamingo floaty spinning. Her glitter hat vanished forever. She finally broke free. Don't ask me how. Scrambling onto the dock like a greased seal in a thunderstorm. Screaming, sobbing, limping, mascara running like melted Crayola. She screamed my name, screamed Carl's name, screamed about reptilian warfare. And then, right there on my dock, she declared legal war. Next stop, the courtroom. The ambulance came. So did the cops. And, of course, Karen's husband, Greg, the poor man who's been surviving solely off expired protein bars and passive aggression since 2009. While Karen was getting patched up in the back of the ambulance, she pointed at me like she was summoning dark spirits and yelled, "You'll pay for this. I know my rights. That lake is under HOA jurisdiction." One of the EMTs chuckled. Karen screamed louder. 3 days later, I got served papers. She was suing me, not the HOA, not the state, me. The lawsuit claimed I had knowingly harbored a dangerous beast, failed to prevent savage mauling, and this is real, encouraged alligator-related violence via passive negligence. It was a crocodile, for one. And two, I had signs everywhere. And three, she wasn't supposed to be in the lake in the first place. Court day came. Karen rolled in wearing a neck brace and walking boot like she got hit by a tank, not a bitey, overgrown lizard. She had an entourage, Greg, 2 HOA lackeys, and a lady named Deborah who once tried to evict a squirrel from the neighborhood. My side? Just me, a USB full of security footage and a lawyer who looked like he hadn't smiled since '97, but had the patience of a monk with a vendetta. Karen took the stand first. She gave a tearful, overdramatic testimony about how the lake used to be a place of joy and spiritual cleansing, until I weaponized nature against her. She even sniffled and showed her leg scar, which frankly looked more like a nasty mosquito party than a life-or-death survival tale. My lawyer didn't even flinch. He stood, nodded, then said one sentence that nuked her entire case. "Your Honor, we have high-definition video footage of the plaintiff trespassing on private property multiple times against posted warnings." He plugged in the USB, and there it was. Karen cannonballing, Karen dancing with a flamingo float, Karen slapping the lake and yelling, "Hoey royalty has arrived!" The judge blinked twice, looked at Karen, looked at me, then simply said, "Case dismissed." Karen gasped like she'd been hit with a betrayal-shaped brick. Greg looked like he'd just been granted custody of his own sanity. And I walked out smiling, justice served, Carl still chilling in the lake, and one less trespasser swimming where she didn't belong. Welcome to Lake Not Yours.